Game of Thrones is a pretty dark series. Literally and figuratively. And there are plenty of disturbing scenes.
Who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
But there is one particular event in the Dance of the Dragons that House of the Dragon, HBO, wouldn't dare to show. Hey, I will be talking about something that happened during the Dance of the Dragons, which if you do not know about it, if you don't know the lore behind it, it's going to spoil that for you, and then may spoil House of the Dragon. Probably will. I can't say what or 100% just because I don't know the changes they're making. Well, all the changes they're making. So yeah, get out of here if you don't want spoilers for House of the Dragon. Okay, you guys probably all know who I want to talk about. That poor muffin, Maelor Targaryen. And no, not the blood and cheese event. That poor kid went through so much. Okay, so here is the setup. Aegon II ends up losing King's Landing to the rightful queen of the Seven Kingdoms, his half-sister, Rhaenyra. Obviously, you don't want the kids to be tortured and killed, so there was an attempt to get Aegon II's kids out of King's Landing and safe from his half-sister Rhaenyra. Maelor, being about 2 or 3 at the time, was smuggled out of King's Landing by Loras Clubfoot, the Master of Whisperers. Clubfoot then gave the toddler to a Kingsguard named Rickard Thorne and told him to take the boy to Old Town. They got to hear Bitterbridge. And I say they got to hear because they were just brutally murdered. So Sir Rickard was killed. What happened to the Prince Maelor Targaryen, again, 2 or 3 years old, is debated. One story goes that Willow Poundstone ended up crushing the boy to death, breaking his back when they picked him up and hugged him. Which, as a toddler, that would be pretty terrifying, someone hugging you to death. But a trusted source says no, that isn't true, and that Maelor instead was simply cut into 6 pieces by a butcher with his cleaver. He then passed out the meat, the hunks of toddler, to 6 different people that were fighting over his body. Honestly, what probably happened is he was torn apart by the mob. I mean, we've seen it before. So Maelor likely spent his last moments being torn limb from limb. And keep in mind, again, toddler who was just ousted from his home. The only thing he ever knew, probably had a lot of adrenaline running through him, fear, he was away from his parents. Then the little fucker gets torn apart. It was a really bad day. There is no way they are going to show a toddler being torn limb from limb on House of the Dragon. Now, they may insinuate it, or maybe you see a shadow of it, but there is no way they will show a toddler on screen being torn apart. I really don't find a toddler being torn apart funny, but I don't know, it would be funny to see on television. Oh, they're probably gonna go super cheap with this and just have his back was broken and crushed to death by Willow Poundstone. That would make the most sense. You just hear like a weird crunch sound and all of a sudden the boy goes limp. That way HBO gets out of the blood and gore and showing us a terrified toddler spending his last moments bleeding out. So basically this video was just to say, HBO, don't be pussies. We want to see a toddler die. Graphically.